Hi, I'm Paul at Ladybug Happy Homestead, and today I want to show you how we take a butchered rabbit and we cut it up into the pieces so that we can marinate it for dinner tomorrow. So here's our rabbit right here. It came out of the freezer and I let it thaw in the refrigerator. The first thing we need to do is we're going to take it out of the bag and we're going to go over there and rinse it. And then when we bring it back, I'm going to place it here and we're going to cut it up into the pieces. And there's a few things we do to it that I'll show you. And then we're going to season it with salt and pepper. And once we do that, we will put it in the refrigerator overnight. And tomorrow we'll come back and we'll add soy sauce, balsamic vinegar, and olive oil. And then we'll let it marinate until the evening. And it will be it'll taste delicious. So here we go. I'm going to take this over to the sink and take it out of this bag and then rinse it. So this is a vacuum sealed bag that we use. And then I have a little grating right here in the sink that this sets on, so it's not just sitting in the base of the sink. So I drain it, and I place it on there for just a little bit. And I like to rinse it off. All right. And now I'm going to take it back over and we're going to piece this thing out. One thing that's important is that we have a really sharp knife. So this is one of my favorites. It's not too big. It's a fillet knife. But any good knife you still have to sharpen. So I like to make sure this knife is nice and sharp. Makes everything a lot easier. First thing I do is I remove the leg. You know, people think it's like a chicken. It kind of looks like a chicken leg once you take it off, but it's got a lot of different bones that you have to get used to and cut around. And there's a lot of oogie snapping and crackling when you're moving things around. And there's one leg. There's the other leg. And then the forearms. I like to try to cut, so the camera can see it, I like to try to cut as much of the meat away from the ribs, even though it's just a thin layer of meat. I like to cut as much away from those ribs as I possibly can. So I'll be able to cook it up. The forelegs are real easy because there's not really any cartilage holding them on. And there's a little bit of blood from before, and I just trim that off. And then the other leg. Cutting that away from the rib cage. And then it removes really easy. And then I just trim some of that blood off of there, just like the other. Now we're not going to keep the rib cage. So the next thing I take off is this piece of meat right here. This is the belly flap, and it is really good. It's got the thickness of a thick piece of bologna, but it tastes more like steak. I cut it away from the ribs. And then away from the back section. So we have that nice piece of meat. And the good thing about those is there's two of them. And then I remove the rib cage from that big old back. I snap it until I hear it pop. And this is nice and tender because before we froze it, we put it in the refrigerator for a couple of days. It makes that meat nice and tender. There's still a little bit of meat on this rib cage, so I try to take some of that off. And then there's a strip along the backbone behind the rib cage. That's a pretty good strip. Try not to waste any of it. And we really don't waste any of it because what's left over goes back into the freezer for us to make into dog food. And my dogs really appreciate that. So that's what's left over there. And now the backbone. Just set this aside for a second. There's a couple of things different. This is a pretty tough bone right here, and this knife is not going to do it that easy. So I have another knife for that right behind me. This is a knife that was made for me by a friend of mine, Larry Lilly. I'll try to see if I can just swat it out. I'm not always very good at that. There we go. Put that with the backbone. And now this is important too. There's a thin layer of membrane right here on the back. And I remove that. See, I'm sticking my finger up through it. Once I do that, I place the knife up there, cut it out that way, and then just remove it. I do the same thing on the other side. Because that's really a fibrous piece and it's not very good as far as the eating part goes. Now some people leave it like this as one piece of meat for the backbone, or for the back. A couple of ribs still in there. But I don't. I make this into two pieces. This is really kind of big for one. So once again, I got to deal with breaking that backbone, and there, I popped it. Now let's see if this knife will. And there, I've got two pieces. So this is made 2 legs, 2 arms, the belly flaps, 2 back pieces. So really you've got 6 pieces plus extras. My dogs are right here beside me, all excited about this rabbit. So the next thing I do, come on, get back. They know they get that dog food and they're used to that flavor, and it's good. As I season it up with salt and pepper. I almost always breathe in that pepper, so I'll be sneezing in a minute probably. Flip it over and do the same thing. A lot of times we don't even season it past the salt and pepper because it's still really good, but this bunch I've decided to go ahead with a marinade that we always used to do on our steaks and chicken. But I'm not going to apply that until tomorrow morning. But overnight, it's just going to sit in the refrigerator. Put it in this Tupperware container. There it is. It goes into the refrigerator just like that. You grab the lid. And that's it. And then the rest of this, like I said, it goes into dog food, so we don't waste any of the carcass or the bones, because the bones from this when they're done also we make into dog food. That'll be a different video. So that's it. I'll see you in the morning, and we'll go ahead and apply our marinade. Okay, it's been overnight, and it's time for me to put the marinade on it. Here's my rabbit. Now I start out with balsamic vinegar. It's very unscientific. I just kind of pour some in there. Or actually, I call this balsamic vinegar. It's olive oil. And then balsamic vinegar. I shake it up a little bit. And soy sauce. And now I place that in the refrigerator until tonight when I cook it, or I could cook it tomorrow. I haven't decided yet. So that's it. That's how you prepare the rabbit for being able to cook. I'm Paul Masker at Ladybug Happy Homestead. Please like and subscribe.